Welcome to the first stock report of the 2023 college football season, where we take a look at draft eligible prospects and see if they've helped their stock or hurt their stock. And what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo. Just in case you did not know, so go ahead, become bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. As always, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that nice, beautiful football discourse. I'm gonna talk about a lot of guys in this video, but if I don't hit up on maybe some of your favorites, then let me know in the comment section below. I can't watch everything, unfortunately, but let's get this sucker started. I'm so excited. Football is back, and we're gonna get started with Louisville versus Georgia, and Jamari Thrash, the wide receiver out of Louisville, had himself a game. Really did. 7 receptions, 2 of those ended up being touchdowns, 88 receiving yards. He also had 5 forced missed tackles, which, hey, me likey that. He's coming in at 6'1", 185, and if you're unfamiliar with him, that's because he wasn't at Louisville last year. He was actually at Georgia State. Yeah, Georgia State, where he actually was first team all Sun Belt. He kind of had a big breakout year where he had over 1,100 yards, and yeah, man, I really love this cat's, like, you can just watch him and you see the quick feet. That's the first thing you notice. Like, this guy is just, his feet are quick, they are precise, he's just light on his feet, and it's no surprise he's this after the catch weapon or after contact type of guy that he could just make guys miss. He had 16 forced missed tackles back in 2022 in that breakout campaign with Georgia State that allowed him to get to where he is now, and being like someone I really can see drafted, because I love the stop-start ability, and he has that good acceleration. He can be this really good vertical threat. If you look at his past 4 years at Georgia State, I think his average depth of target was like 15, almost 16 yards. But he could get it done underneath. He could get it done downfield. And really the only like qualm I noticed, and I went back, did a little research on him, was that he does catch with his body more, so he doesn't really catch for his hands. Like, he'll go up, like, and like if you have to extend for a ball, he'll high point it if necessary. And actually last year, that was something that he actually got pretty decent at, is the contested catch. But I mean, with his frame, because he does look thin, like, I know that like 185 doesn't look like terrible, but not gonna lie, it kind of looks thinner than that. So you don't expect him to be a good contested catch guy, but in terms of ball skills, I'm not exactly positive. To be fair, you know, I only have this Georgia Tech game, and I only checked out a couple of games from last season, so I'm not pulling from a ton of information. This wasn't a guy that I managed to get to during the summer. But with that size, you're gonna worry that he could get bullied during the route or off the line. I mean, to be fair, he's played a majority on the outside, like a vast majority on the outside his whole career. So maybe a little nitpicking there, but all in all, man, I really love. A matter of fact, on his second touchdown, like, you saw the quick feet and just his ability to sell routes. It was really impressive on that second touchdown catch, and like all in all, man, definitely someone I wanted to highlight. I think that was like I can't remember if it was the Thursday or the Friday slate of games. I'm pretty confident it was Thursday, because we were watching the Utah Florida game that night. But let's keep it going with Tyler Nubin, who was playing that Thursday night for Minnesota against Nebraska, and he's a big reason why that they won, because it wasn't a big offensive game, but having a couple of interceptions, that'll kind of help your squad. He was in my 2-round 2023 NFL 2024 NFL mock draft. We kind of talked about this kind of even last season, where he, for a lot of people, was kind of like a top 100, top 75 projection until he decided to return to Minnesota. So let's kind of go over him real quick here, as he was a former 4-star from the 2019 class, played wide receiver, running back, and defensive back in high school, and he was primarily a special teamer actually through his through his freshman season in 2019. He was an instant starter in 2020 in that the shortened season. I think it was only 7 games they played that year. He was in 2021. He was the bowl games defensive MVP, and then last season he ended up making like the second team Big Ten. All Big Ten, despite missing 2 games with a broken freaking hand. And I mean, why everyone's really talking about this cat, 6'2", 210, is he is long, he is explosive. I kind of said prior to the season, he's just someone that that's gonna force the quarterback to not throw the ball away from his side of the field. However, that didn't happen for Jeff Sims this past Thursday, because oh man, threw 2 picks to the guy, 2 picks. But I think he does a good job of actually reading the quarterback and just kind of I kind of said it, exploding to where he needs to be, especially coming downhill. Last season, he or at least through his career, he's allowed a completion rate of 35.3%. That's really low, so you love to see that. He flashes the ball skills, but someone probably should have told Jeff Sims this ahead of time. Throw away from the guy. Should be a guy you're not throwing to. Jeff Sims is also a guy we probably could talk about here, because a lot of people really like the upside of him. It's just I don't see it as a quarterback prospect. I just don't see it there. I don't see the decision making. I don't see any consistency with his ball placement or accuracy. So I'm just gonna put that out there. I think something Nubin, though, going back to him, that he has done better is he obviously, just judging by this game, his reaction, he definitely looked more proactive in coverage. It didn't look like the cogs were turning as slow. Maybe the game was slowing down for him. I mean, this is a guy with a ton of experience, so it was bound to click eventually. But man, he's really going to be playing himself up into a high position if he maintains this level of play. It was really, really impressive. And then I want to kind of wrap up these pre-Saturday games with Benjamin Eurosek, the tight end out of Stanford. He had a big game against Hawaii, went for over 130 yards. He had a tutty as well, and he is a very gifted athlete, very gifted. You go back and look at his high school tape, and I mean, this was a dude that played basketball in high school, which kind of makes sense. Eurostep. Ha! I know, dumb joke. But he's from a family of athletes. His father played football at Colorado State. His mother played volleyball at Colorado State. And the dude is just a really, really good athlete, and ended up kind of coming in as for Stanford in 2020 as kind of not necessarily an immediate starter, but they really wanted to get him involved. And then 2021, well, I mean, I say try to get him involved. He was very involved in 2021. That's actually where he's had the most yards in his career, 655. Because Stanford, if you didn't know, Stanford as a college football school is definitely has been on the downslope for for a little bit now, right? So it didn't surprise me that last year he didn't necessarily take that step that a lot of people may have expected or were hoping. But I mean, he still made second team Pac-12 last year with only 444 yards. I say only, but I mean, that's over 200 yards less than what he did the previous season. And it's nice to see maybe they got new head coaching up in there, so maybe they make him this vital part of the offense, because he is exceptionally athletically skilled, man. He's got a great feel for just a feel during the route when defenders want to get physical with him. He's got a great feel of just kind of how I guess, respond or just anticipate and take on physicality during the route, and especially at the contested catch, which was something like I kind of assumed he would get better at with that basketball background. If you're going to be pulling down boards, you should be pulling down contested catches. Just saying that. And honestly, he hasn't been bad at that through his career. If we're going to go ahead and look at that, it's just he hasn't been really hasn't really had many of those options. But I mean, he's in that 60% range over the course of his career. This past game against Hawaii, he went 2 for 2. So yeah, okay, it's not something like it's not bad. It's not a bad number. I just kind of expected maybe a little higher, but maybe that's just on me. I think he's done some good work by adding some power to the upper body, because let's be honest, he's not a blocker, but very gifted as a receiving option, as a route runner. But I definitely think he could work himself way into being a solid enough blocker, maybe putting on more mass, which I think he's going to come in weighing more than 242. Like, to me, he looked a little bigger than that in the Hawaii game. So I'm really hoping this is just a sign of things to come. I do think Stanford, once they get to their Pac-12 schedule, things probably get a little rougher, but I hope Jurasek remains productive. I really, really, really do. Okay, let's get to the Saturday slate of games, and we're going to talk about Shedeur Sanders. So I don't have a proper evaluation on him yet, because to be fair, I didn't check out a ton of Jackson State tape. But man, that TCU game was incredible. It truly was. Thrown for over 500 yards, 4 tutties, leading Colorado, a team that was just dog water the last few years, to a victory over the former national championship contender in 2022. TCU, granted, who they lost a lot, but they still retained a ton of talent. They recruited well. They brought in some solid transfers. So he just, all in all, played really, really well in that game. And some of the themes I really noticed was, I thought there was good poise in the pocket. He's very much like, he's not like, it's kind of wild because like, you look at some of his stats from Jackson State and it's like, oh man, this guy can run the football. But he is a passer first and foremost. If he's going to extend a play with his feet, the man is looking to sling the football. And it was pretty darn accurate. Granted, I think some of the deep ball, the ball placement kind of got away from him, but still, like 83% adjusted completion percentage was very, very good. I like the poise. He's got a cannon. If you're unfamiliar with kind of like his story, which I doubt you are, but he was a former 4-star recruit, and he goes to Jackson State, where his Hall of Fame father, Deion Sanders, coached. Matter of fact, his dad was the offensive coordinator at his high school. They're at, Trinity Christian High School. And he eventually follows his father to Colorado. But this dude had a ton of success at Jackson State. He started every game there at Jackson State. He was the SWAC like freshman player of the year. He was a first team all SWAC. He was the offensive player of the year just last year. He helped lead, him and his father helped lead Jackson State to their first Celebration Bowl. Granted, they never won one while they were there, but he led them to their first one and then did it again the next season. So like, I'm really excited to kind of follow and watch Shedeur for the rest of the year. They won't get, like, they kind of get cupcakes the next couple of weeks. Colorado State, I can't remember the other team, but the schedule will ramp up as then they have Oregon and USC back to back, I believe. So those are going to be the big games to watch out for. I'm really excited. I mean, dude, there's so many quarterbacks we could talk about this week, just because it's kind of like week 1 of college football. There's a lot of cupcake matchups. So there's a lot of quarterbacks we could probably talk bout. But let's keep this sucker rolling. We're going to talk about Emory Jones at the quarterback position, a name that you should be familiar with. There was a lot of hype on Emory Jones a couple of years ago when he was at Florida that he could potentially maybe find himself in the first round, and eventually, Florida's like, yo, we kind of got this Anthony Richardson kid in. He ain't half bad. So, like, yeah, it eventually led Emory Jones to transfer. He was at Arizona State last season, where he would start the first 7 games, but after he would get a concussion and wouldn't play the rest of the season. Now he moves on here to Cincinnati, which, I mean, he has been in college football this is his 6th season. He will be 24 by the time he gets drafted, but he came out here in Cincinnati against, I know, Eastern Kentucky, but still had a banger game. His 7 touchdowns for the squad tied a school record. He looked very impressive in this game because, like, we know this guy, he has a powerful cannon. He is a very, very good athlete. Like, he has the tools, and we've just kind of all been waiting for him to kind of put it together. But honestly, if he has a solid enough season, like, this guy's going to be draftable. He's coming in at 6'3", 212. And I think people last year didn't really help him at Arizona State. But I think people are kind of like down on like his ability to go through progressions. And I think he does a better job than people really give him credit to. I mean, there are times he sits on routes for too long, but he has shown the ability to just actually go through his progressions and kind of like play with the timer in his head. And I mean, again, if all these physical tools kind of like line up for him and everything clicks, we can talk about a guy that really rises up the boards. Keep in mind, Cincinnati, they're playing in the Big 12 this year, so it might be fun to watch. So I just wanted to bring up Emory Jones at least one time. The guy we haven't talked about in a while. It's like he's still kicking, he's still around, and he just had a hell of a game. Remember, guy once talked about as a first-round talent. Granted, for a lot of people, that was projection. I don't think I got there with him. I think I had him as day 2. It's like, okay, well, let's first see how it pans out, and then it didn't. But yeah, I'm going to be excited, especially against some of the bigger matchups. See if he maybe still struggles kind of with like ball placement and whatnot, and just accuracy in general. If you can learn to throw with touch. But I'm very excited. I'm very excited for Emory Jones. Really am. And then I think I got one more quarterback here I want to talk about is Michael Pratt. And you'd be like, man, there's so many quarterbacks you could talk about. Jackson Dart. Don't you love Jackson Dart? They were facing Mercer. Calm down. Oh, Joe Milton had a really good game. Virginia's not good. I know. I used to live in Virginia. What other quarterbacks had banger games? I could talk about Jordan Travis, and I'll bring him up a little bit later. Their game was on Monday or Sunday night, so give me a sec. Give me a moment. I'll bring him up a little later. I mean, honestly, there's a ton of guys we could kind of talk about, but I mean, week 1's kind of made to it's made for your team to look good. You want to kind of like you want to be a well-oiled machine going into basically conference play or some of your harder games. Like Jalen Milroe looked really good too. So it's like what they were facing like Tennessee Martin or something, right? So let's reel back. And the reason I brought up Michael Pratt is because he was facing kind of a real defense here. Like South Alabama got some players that might be playing in the NFL. Like they were a really good defense last year. Them and Troy were kind of like the Sun Belt darlings, teams with just really, really good defense. And shoot, basically Pratt came out and had a field day. He really did. He went 14 of 15 with 1 incompletion. And fun fact, that incompletion was a dropped freaking football. That's right. Had 4 tutties. He added 62 rushing yards. I think Jim Nagy named him the Senior Bowl Player of the Week. So like we're probably gonna see him at the Senior Bowl, but he's coming here at 6'3", 220. He was basically a starter immediately once he got to Tulane, where he started 9 of the 10 games there. Started 11 games in 2021. Then last year, of course, started the 13 games, made second team All AAC, All American, and beat USC in their bowl game. Kind of the cherry on top to that season last year. And I think he's got good size. I wouldn't say he has an elite arm, but he's got solid arm strength. He throws with appropriate zip. He throws with good zip or touch to all levels of the field. Combines that with just a very quick release, processes the field well, does a good job going through his progressions, and I like the anticipation that he throws with, and I'm gonna be interested again. His only incompletion ended up being a drop, and you look to last season, he was actually plagued by a lot of drops from his receivers. That number was 11.2%. He also shows a good feel. Let me let go Joe in here real quick. He also shows a good feel for the pocket. I wouldn't say, I know like if you look at his running numbers, they seem pretty impressive, but he isn't like he's a good athlete, but he's not going to be like a runner. You're not going to expect that in the NFL from him, but natural born leader. And we'll kind of look at some of the gripes with him. I think there's some inconsistency with maybe some of his lower body mechanics, because the strength does vary depending on where the ball needs to go, what level of the field it is going. There's times where it just feels like his lower body is kind of bad at sync with his upper body, and there are times where the ball placement or the anticipation downfield, or in particularly on the sidelines, could be better. So again, someone definitely interesting to watch out for. It's kind of a studded quarterback class. It truly is. I know people are going to bring up like Michael Penix, Bo Nix. Oh, they had banger games. Like, yeah, they did. We're going to be talking about those guys throughout the season. I kind of want to hit on some of the guys maybe I didn't during the summer. So again, I'm just trying to put names on y'all's watch list. And speaking of names, I want to talk about Xavier Leggett. If you were here during the watch along live stream, North Carolina versus South Carolina, I was like, who is this man? Who is this Xavier Leggett? Because he caught my eye. He had the leg sleeve, and I was like, okay, man. He's big-bodied, 6'3", 227, but he's a pretty smooth enough mover. He showed, like, at that size, yeah, you better be good at the contested catch, and he owned the contested catch in that game. He was tough to bring down because, I mean, he's just big, and I was like, all right, man. I mean, shoot, like, maybe this guy was stuck behind Jalen Brooks last year, who ended up going to the NFL, and then Juice Wells, if you didn't know, he got hurt. I think it was a foot injury or something. That's actually kind of, we should kind of talk about that, because like, okay, so he gets hurt in the first quarter. I guess he was dealing with a foot injury entering the game, may have re-aggravated it, and it sounds like they're going to hold him out of the next game because it's against Furman. It should be an easy win. The following week they face Georgia, so they probably want him back healthy. So it kind of sucks. Juice Wells was kind of the guy on my radar. I couldn't wait to watch him in this game and in that North Carolina game. But it was Leggett who kind of like took advantage of this opportunity, and I went ahead and I wanted to like look at what I could from him. I was like, all right, why is this a guy maybe not many people may have been talking about? And a lot of that actually kind of was because of injury. So he was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, where he played he played receiver first couple of years, then switched over to quarterback, I believe, his senior season. But he comes to South Carolina in 2019, ends up being a reserve, and then in 2020 they had, of course, the shortened season. where they only played 10 games, but he missed 4 games because of a variety of different injuries he was dealing with that year, and then comes back in 2021, right? Played in 11 games, only 4 starts, had to miss 2 games because of a motorcycle accident he was in, and he actually returned early from it and played as he recovered. Like, he was quoted as saying, yeah, I was still playing with like a bit of an open wound that I just kind of had to bandage up, and I don't know if that's why he maybe plays with the sleeve on his leg, now that I think about it. I'm starting to put 2 and 2 together there. Anywho, last season, he actually played in all 13 games, and he was technically had 7 starts, but he was buried behind like other pass catchers. Like, Juice Wells had that big year last year. You had Jalen Brooks. You had Jaheim Bell, even Austin Stogner. They had other pass catchers there, and he just didn't see the volume. However, he did have a breakout game in the bowl game last season against Notre Dame, because that's something I was like, okay, this is where he kind of like exploded, I guess. So let's go back and watch that. And it's 7 receptions. He had like 78 yards, 2 touchdowns, and now this game, start the year, looked phenomenal. I love this dude's size. Again, I say he moves smooth at that size, but he's never going to be the quickest or the fastest guy. But you look at this guy, like, you got that X size. I like that. I like that quite a bit. And I'm just so eager to see more. And I guess while we're talking about this game, the offensive line, I don't plan on looking at anyone from the offensive line on South Carolina. I'm just going to assume they're all underclassmen, because they were pretty awful. The interesting thing for North Carolina, Amari Gainer is playing as an edge. That kind of blows my mind, because he was kind of been this, like, I get not necessarily a hybrid, but like an off-ball linebacker who occasionally blitz when he was at Florida State. So that is interesting. And like Spencer Rattler, man, honestly, he looked good in spite of what was going on with that offensive line. The dude literally had no time to throw. It just wasn't great, man. It just wasn't great. And like with Spencer Rattler, it was like, man, I just want to see you work inside a structure, and you weren't even given the ability to do that. While we're talking about Drake May, I thought May, like, he looked the part. He didn't look as hoppy as he did last season. There were a few errant passes, but like you saw the ability to make those big time throws, and you could see why he's probably going to be a first rounder, probably top 10. Can't really think of any other notes. There was, I'll say his name was TJ Williams, the linebacker for South Carolina 0. This dude was all over the place. Like, I love how he flies around the football. Like, he's a little short, but I think that's all right. He slipped off a couple of tackles, but I really love the ferociousness he plays with, or at least played with in that game. All right, we're going to move to UCLA versus Coastal Carolina, and I just want to talk about the Murphy brothers in general. And both are listed as 6'3", 260. And in all honesty, like, we got to give a shout out to Liatu Latu, who had like 10 pressures and 3 sacks. Like, in that game, like, he was just as nutty. But you had the Murphy brothers also being very productive with a sack, 13 pressures, and the interesting part for me was Grayson that kind of outplayed Gabriel, because Gabriel, I thought, was, at least Gabriel feels like the more all-around prospect, and I feel like that's probably still where I'm at. Like, I think he's a good run defender. I think he's very solid as a pass rusher, where I think Grayson, he kind of lives in that pass rusher role, and he really very much so did against Coastal Carolina, where you see 13 pass pressures, 9 of them were Grayson. But I don't know, man, it's gonna be interesting. Sometimes it's hard to tell these guys apart when on the field, but it's definitely gonna be interesting. I think both are gonna end up being drafted. I really, really do. I don't think neither boast elite traits, but in terms of like, I think Gabriel's game's a little bit more put together. But man, I don't know, man. Grayson might be coming up there. Like, we could be talking about like early day 3 on both these guys, maybe even sneaking into day 2. They were impressive. The pass rush was in general impressive for UCLA, as Grayson McCall honestly did the best that he could do. We could talk about Grayson McCall here. He's a good college quarterback, guys. I don't think he's a draftable quarterback. He's got a noodle for an arm. He's played in an offense that is not very translatable. He should have transferred last year, and if not for the injury, he probably would have last season, and it just kind of sucks. So yeah, that's kind of my take there when it comes to him. We're going to stay in the Pac-12 with Jaden Hicks, man. Another safety that just kind of exploded this past weekend as they were taking on Colorado State, and he had 7 tackles, 2 pass breakups. He had an interception that he returned, what was it, 37 yards? Yeah, 37 yards for a touchdown. And you might look at that, oh, he allowed a 70-yard touchdown. Oh, that's not great. To be fair, I don't think he should have been out there. Like, they were up 43-10 with 11 minutes left in the was it 11? Yeah, with 11 minutes left in the game when this touchdown was thrown in the 4th quarter. Like, why is he still in the game? You're blowing the other team out by 33. Yeah. But he comes in at 6'3", 212. I think he'd be a good for, like, I think he's split safety. Like, I think he's explosive. And I'm just pulling up my actual eval on him. Explosive athlete, whether it's like closing the distance towards the sideline or coming downhill to make a play against the run. Very fearless coming downhill and just throw his body. Will throw caution to the wind. You know, doesn't mind having to get physical. He takes good angles. He wants to lay the hit on them ball carriers. He does a nice job of keeping his eyes on the football, and he attacks well when the ball is in air, and he has some legit vertical to him. Like, I think he's going to be a guy that tests out pretty darn well. However, I did make this note last year, or this summer on him, is that he struggles with deeper routes, that he can be a tick too late turning and running, and he just kind of gives too much cushion downfield, resulting in some blown coverages. Like last year, he allowed 3 receptions for 65 plus, or he allowed 3 receptions for 65 plus yards. Obviously, starting the year with a 75-yard touchdown you allowed. Not great, but I don't think he should have been in that game. Like, I think in general, the footwork out of the back pedal could be a little bit better. But this is his 2nd year as a starter. I think by the end of the year, we're going to be probably talking about him as a potential day 2 guy. I'm not there yet with him, but I could definitely see him rising. This was a strong statement game for him in spite of the 75-yarder that, again, why is, you know Colorado State, they're 33 points behind. They're going to be throwing the ball, looking for the big play. Why are your starters in? You don't need it. You've won the game. What are you doing? Regardless, let's talk about the LSU game. Keon Coleman was my MVP in that game. The dude had 3 touchdowns. He was working through a cramp too in that game, I believe. But 9 receptions, 122 yards. He absolutely dominated the game. I know some people are going to want to bring up Johnny Wilson. I thought he was fine, but again, I did worry about some of the ball skills. He had 2 bad drops in that game. But Keon Coleman, for me, yeah, he's a first rounder. He is a first rounder. He is a prototypical X wide receiver at his build, 6'4", 214. He's tough to bring down at that size if you're unfamiliar. He played at Michigan State last season where he led the team in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. Strong start to this season, man. Good blend of just size, speed, strength. Someone who will win the contested ball game out. huge catch radius. He just looked utterly dominant in this game, in this performance. So if he wasn't someone you were familiar with, get familiar with him. Jordan Travis had a very good game as well. Honestly, a lot of my gripes with Jordan Travis are, I guess, I don't think he's got like a wonderful arm. I think it's fine. And there were times I thought the decision making wasn't ideal. But I mean, honestly, he could kind of turn that around and maybe develop into like, I mean, to be fair, I say develop into like, I think I have a 5th round grade on him. Yeah. Essentially, I have a 5th round grade on him. Yeah, I think he could probably maybe work his way into maybe a 3rd round grade. But I don't know, man. I don't know. He's just maybe not my cup of tea. I don't know. We'll find out. Jaden Daniels is another guy that's not necessarily my cup of tea. I thought he had a lot of bad misses. Not a lot, but like the ball placement wasn't always ideal for him. Jared Verse I thought looked really good. Just continually exploded off the edge. There was an interior player for Florida State too that was just eating. I think it was something Farmer, Joshua Farmer, maybe I'm just making that up, but like I know it's Farmer. I know it's Farmer for a fact. He was really good. Like the game was fun to watch until it wasn't. Because what LSU just went on, or Florida State just went on that run in the second half and just golly gee. But Keon Coleman was my star coming out of that game. Let me know who were some of the guys you were impressed with this week. That's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing, but as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.